My 21 male parents are paying all of my college tuition. I'm going to a college far away from home, which is much more expensive than colleges closer to my home. I have no financial aid or scholarships. My parents were the ones who encouraged me to attend this college and not worry about the money. I have to take a 4-hour flight and a 2-hour bus ride to travel between my college and home. My parents have been booking my flights in first class rather than economy class. I will be working towards an even more advanced degree after graduating with the current degree I am on track to earn, and my parents will pay for my education then as well. I always thought my parents were paying for my education out of the kindness of their heart, so that I could have a stronger future and not have to worry about student debt or loans. And I thought they'd do the same for my younger sister, 15 female, when she goes to college too. Turns out, I was wrong. I was speaking to my parents on the phone today, and the conversation soon went to college and the advanced degree I would be earning. My parents made it clear that they would continue to pay for my education, with the expectation that I pay for my sister's education when she goes to college. With our age gap, my sister will be starting her first or second year of college by the time I graduate with my advanced degree. My parents had never told me that them paying for my college tuition came with strings attached prior to today. I wasn't expecting to pay for my sister's tuition at all. Had my parents told me about this beforehand, I might have considered going somewhere cheaper and taking loans as opposed to paying for my sister's education. My sister wants to attend expensive, prestigious universities. They're called Ivy League in the United States. So taking loans for my own education would have been a better financial decision as opposed to paying for hers. I told my parents there was no way I was paying for my sister's college tuition. I asked if she would at least be expected to pay me back half of what I spend on her education, and they said no. We don't have any other younger siblings whose tuition my sister would have to pay, so clearly my parents were favoring her. My parents told me that my sister was, and always will be, the baby of the house, and asked if I even loved her. I asked them why they couldn't pay for my sister's tuition, and they said that college is expensive, and they already funded my education. They said any good brother would help his sister have a good life. They then called me an a-hole. Am I an a-hole, though? Not the a-hole. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone reading this. It is bizarre logic that seems like should have been discussed when you were picking a university. Not the a-hole. Are your parents loons? Why would they assume you can even pay for your sister once you graduate? That's a lot of money. You can start applying for loans and tell them to keep their stupid strings attached tuition. Not the a-hole, but seriously consider refusing their financial aid for the master's. Pay for that yourself, and make your parents pay for your sister's undergrad degree with that money instead. I, male, have a daughter from my former marriage, Jess, 26 female. My wife has two, Penny, 21 female. We've been together for 15 years, and I consider Penny as a daughter. Her father died when she was born, so she has only me as a father figure. Jess and my wife have a friendly but not close relationship. She and Penny don't like each other since they were young, and despite having tried in the past to get them closer, we gave up. As the title informed, her wedding took place on 1/6. She invited me to walk her down the aisle, and I accepted. She only invited my wife. 5 hours before the ceremony, we received a call from the police saying that Penny has been in an accident and we needed to go to the hospital, an hour away from the city. We didn't know the size of the accident. They didn't want to inform us over the phone, so we went to the hospital. It was a serious accident, and her health condition was delicate, and we only managed to see her very late, 11 p.m. But until that, we stayed outside the hospital waiting to hear from her. When I found out that the accident was much more serious, 4 p.m., wedding 7 p.m., I called my daughter and told her what had happened, that we didn't know what was really going on or if she would survive. But because of that, I wouldn't be able to leave the place until the situation stabilized, so I couldn't go to the wedding, and I apologized profusely. She didn't even ask how Penny was doing, and just started screaming into the phone that I was choosing my stepdaughter over my biological daughter at the most important moment of her life, asking how I could do this to her, etc. I got the unpleasant bonus of a call from my ex about stressing her out and making our daughter cry on her wedding day because I can't get to have the father-daughter moment she's always dreamed of. Penny's situation is serious, but it comes out of critical, and there were 72 hours of, after the accident, uncertainty whether she would survive or not. She remains in the hospital in a coma, but is slowly getting better. I've tried several times to call Jess and have a proper conversation, but she refuses to talk to me. Am I the a-hole? Extra. I forgot to put it in the text. My mistake. One of the many things she yelled at me was that I walked Penny down the aisle at her wedding, and she didn't get this. Besides her not being the first, I didn't even walk her down the aisle, etc. This is controversial, but you knew you were going to miss your daughter's most important day the moment you got into the car with your wife. Why didn't you stay at the wedding to support your daughter while your wife went to look after Penny? Importantly, what are you going to do to make up for it? Or has Penny always been your focus? Everyone sucks here. You were really in a tough spot. I wouldn't say you're the a-hole, but it doesn't matter what a bunch of internet strangers think. You made the decision you did, and it obviously has affected your relationship with your eldest. Making the right choice doesn't mean you get off the hook for that choice hurting others. I would be absolutely devastated if my dad missed my wedding, even if he had a good reason. If you want to continue to have a relationship with your daughter, you're going to have to find some way to make it right with her. No a-holes, because there was no good options. But choosing to sit at a hospital and waiting to see if you would be allowed to see your stepdaughter instead of walking your daughter down the aisle deeply wounded Jess. If she does ever speak to you again, please start by apologizing profusely. She may have already decided that you are dead to her as a way to protect herself from being heartbroken over your choices in the future. My stepdaughter, Tara, 27, recently got married. I've been with her mother for 10 years total, so she didn't grow up with me around. She has her father and his family in her life. She's not extremely close with my side of the family, and that's fine. 6 days before her wedding, my father died unexpectedly. The people invited to her wedding from my family was myself, my 2 kids, my brother, and one of my sisters. I flew out to see my mother immediately and was gone 2 days. My wife wanted to stay behind to help Tara with her wedding prep. My mom and aunt handled the funeral arrangements. They were aware of Tara's wedding and tried to be mindful of it, and also give our family time to get in town for the funeral. One funeral home serves the area my parents live in, and the dates available for service were 3 before the wedding, day of the wedding, day after the wedding. They went with the day after. My siblings skipped the wedding since they live in different states and would only be able to get time off and afford to travel for one ceremony, so they went only to our father's funeral. My kids and I stayed for Tara's wedding, took photos, and left right after the ceremony since it was a 6-hour drive, and airline prices were insanely high, and I'd already dropped a good bit of money on the first flight after Dad died. Day after the funeral, those of us who missed the wedding were sent requests for $125 by Tara as a refund for meal and favor bags. My kids and siblings asked if she was serious, and I told them I'd call her to find out. When I called, she said she was serious, and we had cost her money and owed her for missing her wedding. Tara and my wife think we all should have stayed for the wedding and reception and left afterward. I told them both before the wedding that wouldn't be doable and why. My brother and sister couldn't afford 2 plane tickets or get that many days off, and they had sent their apologies and wedding gifts to her. I also pointed out we couldn't all fit in one car to drive there. My wife insists I should pay all the refunds, and my mother shouldn't have scheduled a funeral the day after the wedding, and worse for me to leave on Tara's wedding day. I might be an a-hole, because I told Tara we gave her and her husband a few days heads up we wouldn't be attending the reception, so it's not like they got blindsided, and to demand refunds over a funeral was beyond reasonable. Not the a-hole. No one owes a couple a refund for missing their wedding under any circumstances. Life happens. But it is especially egregious to charge people who miss the wedding for a funeral. Unspeakably cruel to do so for people who are attending their father's or grandfather's funeral. I'm really shocked by how calm you seem about this. This was unthinkably callous on her part. Not the a-hole. That's extremely tacky and absolutely heartless on Tara's part. And she's the only a-hole in this story. She owes your family an apology in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Tara has no compassion, is greedy, tone-deaf, and her approach is profoundly stupid. Look up the concept of sunk cost. Her money is gone regardless, but she came out ahead if she kept the leftovers. So I, 33 female, hosted Easter dinner this last Saturday. My immediate family, husband and kids, are taking our first camping trip of the year next weekend, so we had to do Easter early. A quick note on who all came. There was my grandma, 70s, my mom and dad, 60s, my uncle and his wife, 50s, my siblings, 20s, male and female, my sister's husband and kids, 20s, 3 female, 6 female, my 2 cousins and their families, 30 male, 20s male, 20s female, 8 female, 7 male, 3 female, 2 female, 2-month-old, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, 30s. We have a pretty big group, but a ton of space, enough to host without it feeling crowded. Now, the problem with my family is they are needy, for a lack of a better word. They are constantly needing my help and care. From my generation to my parents and uncle, to my grandmother, I barely have time to tend to my own family. It has me seriously considering getting rid of my phone because anytime I have a call or a message, it's one of them. This makes my life beyond stressful, and I've been slowly stopping all of the help. It's been a tough process, but I'm getting there. Easter dinner happened and all the adults were sitting around my living room talking, and the kids were in the backyard playing, fenced in with sliding glass doors we had open where we could watch, hear them. We got on the subject of my family's camping trip. My cousin asked why we didn't host big camping trips like I used to. I told him honestly because I'm using it as a time to fully connect with my husband and kids and disconnect from everyone else. He got aggravated, saying I didn't need to disconnect from family, that it would be fun to have everyone together for a camping trip. I admit that it was selfish, but I asked him why, so I can take care of everyone on my break from them? Asked him what part he would contribute to, if him and his wife would be supplying their own gear, and if they're only going to take care of their own kids on a camping trip. He raised his voice, asking when has he ever made me do any of that? I snapped and said every single effing day. That I care for everyone 24/7, and I have my own life and family outside of taking care of them. My uncle got in my face and started yelling about me talking to his son like that. I told him I wouldn't if he would take care of his own damn kids instead of pushing it off on me. My mom tried to calm the situation, but I was angry and turned on her, yelling that she had no right to speak on the matter, as she won't even fix her own damn food, and she expects me to do it because she's too lazy. The dinner ended. Everyone went home mad. My husband and in-laws said my family had it coming, and they knew it was only a matter of time, but my grandma said I was in the wrong because we are all family, and that's just what family does for each other. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, because we're family. It's not a good reason to continue being a doormat. That is how they are treating you. You host and do all the work, while they get to relax and enjoy being waited on. You told them the camping trip was for your family unit alone, and the other guy had to push for an answer why you weren't bringing the entire family. If he didn't want to hear an honest answer, he shouldn't have pushed so hard. Not the a-hole. I think all of that needed to be said, probably for years and years now. Isn't it hilarious that your spoiled entitled cousin had the balls to ask why you didn't plan a family camping trip, instead of saying, thanks for hosting an early Easter for us to spend together, cousin. Here's some money to help out with the cost. By the way, I'd really like to host a family camping trip for everybody to enjoy together. What days would be good for your family? I imagine none of those words or thoughts have ever crossed your cousin's mind. OP, your family of origin has shown you who they are. It's okay to believe them now. And the nerve of your uncle getting in your face, in your house, after you invited them into your home, made a meal for all of them. That right there is the glaring reason your cousin is such an a-hole. And I'm sorry to say, but your grandmother who supported their behavior is the ringleader of that freaking circus. It sounds like you have made a lovely family with your husband and children. His extended family is more supportive of you and your family's needs and decisions, and those are the kind of people that you guys should surround yourselves with. You can still love your family of origin. You just need to love them from a distance for your own well-being. You did great, and keep standing up for yourself and your family. Not the a-hole. We're family isn't a blanket excuse for demanding anything and everything. It's healthy to set boundaries, and it sounds like you need to do so ASAP. Blowing up wasn't the ideal way to have that conversation, but you've bottled it inside for so long. Who can blame you? My cousin is a flight attendant. I can't disclose which company, but it's a European one. She's been working as a flight attendant for the past 5 years, and 3 of the 5 years she's happened to work during holidays. The only year she had the holidays off was in 2020 because of the restrictions in place, but she didn't get to enjoy the holidays due to the situation back then. This year, she was supposed to have New Year's and Easter off. On New Year's, she got a call last minute that another attendant got sick, so she would have to cover her. I remember her complaining back then about how she can't have crap anymore, and she was having a mental breakdown over missing New Year's as she was getting ready. When she left, she didn't even say bye, she just left crying. Now on Easter, she had to cover again for another sick colleague of hers while she was supposed to have 3 days off. As you can imagine, she was again very upset, and she was crying again. On one hand, I tried to sympathize with her, but I'm a person who's been struggling with minimum wage jobs and unemployment my whole life, and I also have a family to feed. She gets paid 10 times more than I do, and she works only 3 of 7 days a week, and I thought it was really ungrateful of her to cry and complain because she simply has to give up some holidays. When she returned home, I told her that I understand it might suck to miss holidays, but she should at least be happy and grateful she has a job, while some of us are struggling to make ends meet. And if she can't handle missing some holidays while working so little per week, then she might want to come at my 9-to-5 job where we get yelled at all day long while getting paid minimum wage. My entire family claimed I was an a-hole to dismiss her like that. Was I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Just because your job sucks doesn't mean others can't complain about theirs. You're the a-hole. Don't put others down because you're jealous of them. You're the a-hole. Your struggles don't invalidate someone else's. It sucks that you're in a bad place, but it's not a competition for Hard Times Olympics. You wouldn't tell someone not to be happy because other people have it better. You can ask her not to talk to you about it if you find it upsetting, but you can't tell her not to complain.